Red. Hello everyone. This is totally my series and not Joseph's. I wanted to try this out for myself because I don't know, on a whim one day I was like, man, I remember when this thing happened. And I tweeted it and I was like, does anyone else remember this thing? So I wrote, does anyone remember walking into a card store and seeing cards you thought you'd never be able to own in your lifetime? Mine was Emergency Teleport. If I recall correctly, it was like around $50 to $60 a copy. I could be wrong. I didn't have the prices. I actually tried to search for the prices before I tweeted this because I was super curious. And I thought it was like the coolest card ever. So this brought a ton of people to come up with their own stories and their memories for the cards that they themselves had the same experience as I did, where you'd walk into a card store and be like, man, I'm never gonna own that card. And then years later, if you're still playing Yu-Gi-Oh, you're like, oh my God, I can afford that card. Let's go through some of these. We have Mr. Doug, Mr. DZ. For many years, it was DMOC. Oh my God, I never got to play during this era. So like, I never even got to experience what it was like for like people who maybe played Yu-Gi-Oh during like GOAT format or with older cards like Dark Magician of Chaos. Finally picked one up and then it got banned a month later. That's the worst, when you pick up a card that's like super expensive and you're like, oh my God, I got it. I finally own Dark Magician of Chaos. Banned. It's the worst feeling in the world because you're just like, well, now I can't even play this expensive card I bought. Later, it was Trishula. Couldn't find one on release, but picked one up in high school eventually, and it was the most expensive card I owned. Banned a week after it arrived in the mail. Then we have Dyer. Never thought I'd own a high rarity card. Always thought I didn't care about high rarity stuff and would just get the cheapest cards to play with. Then after like 3 months of NR format with Heart Earth Dragon, seeing it in Ghost Rare at a YCS made me buy it for $100. All my life, I was like, I don't care about high rarity cards. I really don't. But as I've continued to play Yu-Gi-Oh more and enjoy the game, I was like, you know what? I want to pick up a Starlight Rare. I have played a lot of Edison recently, and I want to pick up a cool card. And I walked over and I saw the Starlight Rare Blackwing Armor Master. And I was like, oh, this guy rocks. Gage was actually there. Gage is a master of the trade, by the way. He is a hustler. Gage comes in and he's like, hey, give my buddy a bit of a break here, huh? And he knocks down the price a couple bucks. Very nice. What a nice man. When I walked in a card store and saw a $100 Appaloosa and just felt sad that I couldn't get it. Look at me now, bless reprints. Oh my God. I was not around for the Yu-Gi-Oh era of like Oppo being like an incredibly expensive card. I had no idea. I got into the game when like Oppo was like around $25, I think, which was still kind of expensive. And I went to Frankensons and saw an Oppo, a Borreload Savage, and like IP. And Oppo, they were like selling for like 15 for a sale. I picked up Borreload for like 20, and I picked up IP for like 15. Yeah, Diabell Star. We have Cursed Eyes. When I first got into the game, this card seemed holy. It was a card that I truly thought was an auto-include staple that could beat any deck, and it was so expensive. But the moment it dropped in price, got a reprint, and became affordable, it suddenly felt mortal. Could not agree more. When I think I purchased Forbidden Droplet around like the $50-$60 mark. That was when they reprinted it in the terrible Ocean set. I forget, it's like Maki or whatever. I was like, oh, this is a pretty good price. And I finally owned like a droplet or two. And I was like, nice. Boy howdy was I like, okay, now I have this card forever. But had I walked into a card store and seen Forbidden Droplet, I would be like, man, there is no way I'll own this card. Because of its incredible card art, I feel like it has the impact that you would want to give if you're trying to sell this card to people. If I didn't know what this game did, and I look at this, it has like an $80 price tag, and I see this art, I'm like, whoa, what does this do? Genuinely thought it would have taken longer for prize cards to get reprinted and would be unplayable by the time they did. So Minerva and Giant Hand were in that category to me for the longest time. Another era of Yu-Gi-Oh that I never got to see, but I did know about like Light Sworns in general. So when I heard about like prize cards being like playable and like incredibly expensive. I can only imagine like walking to a locals, and I don't even know if you would see this at a locals counter, you know? It'd have to be like a huge locals or some place that somehow got their hands on like a Minerva or a giant hand and being like, whoa. Scizor says, mine was Yugioh Guardian. It was such a cool card for my zombie synchro deck, and I had to see it every time I passed by it in the card shop. I was a poor kid, so I didn't have the money for it. Ended up buying from a swap meet for cheap from a lady who didn't know any better. Oh, fantastic one. God, the fact that you were able to get it from like a swap meet is the best, because you ever go to like one of those like low to the ground, maybe garage sales or things like that, and you find like Yu-Gi-Oh? It's like finding like treasure, because nobody sells like Yu-Gi-Oh unless it's like bulk. So you're like, y'all got Yu-Gi-Oh? Ulti Zeus was so pretty, and I never thought I'd have one, but one OTS 18 pack later, guess what showed up? Man, if I saw Zeus at like a locals card store, I'd be like, that's the coolest card in the world. I actually bought Ulti Zeus recently for like 40 bucks, and I was like, that's actually like a super reasonable price for one of like the most influential Xyz monsters like in the game. If you showed Kid Me Zeus and said, this is a Yu-Gi-Oh card, I would have shit bricks. Me too. For me, it was Baron de Fleur. Shit was $120 at the time. Then on a dime and a week before my birthday, no less, I bought a box of Synchro Storm and I pulled it. Very lucky. Synchro Storm, terrible set, but it has Baron in it. So you could make the gamble of just paying like 60 bucks or whatever, how cheap it is, and see if you can pull it or not. Another holdout for the cheap lords like me. For so long, every time I saw my opponents activate Prosby, I felt so priced out. I pulled 3 from one box. I just don't care that I have 3 different rarities. I'm just happy to have them. It was so incredible. Everyone, this was even longer than Baron. We thought we were never getting the Prosperity reprint. And then for the 25th anniversary rarity collection, Pot of Prosperity not only coming out in all of these sick rarities, but it was finally affordable. Mine is really dumb, but it's Flame Wingman. I was 13 during the GX era and loved E-Heroes. I had so many of them. I opened so many Duelist packs, Jaden looking for that card, saw it at my LGS one day, and I remember thinking, wow, seeing this card in person is crazy. Oh my God, that's awesome. I hope someone did this for like Mudball Man or something like that. It would be so sick. Definitely, I feel like there's a missing niche of people who looked at like really bad cards that were like maybe expensive, or at least they couldn't afford them at the time, and they were like, oh my God, I hope I can own Flaming Swordsman. 3 tour guides of the underworld back in 2013. Now I have 3 in 2023 because of the rarity collection. Tour guide, somehow, some way, still a relevant card today. Boy, back then was it unreal. For many reasons, by the way. 3 tour guides of the underworld would run you so much. And that was it. I mean, listen, I really just use this as an excuse to go through like my memories as a kid and just reminiscing of all the cards that I never was able to own. And now I can finally walk in and like buy Emergency Teleport. I can finally buy Dark Arm Dragon. I can buy Dark Magician if I want to. And there's a ton of reprints, a ton of ways to enjoy the cards. So thanks for going down a little memory lane with me. This freaking guy, Mr. Famous Internet Man Ultima, is snitching. Free Twitter thread video. No. This one's mine. This one's all mine, okay?